Okay, Elon Musk has sent out another tweet into the Twitter sphere. And, like a lot of things, there's some things that he says are good and there's some things that he says are bad. And you got to take everything with a grain of salt and try to navigate our way through this great reset, fourth industrial revolution. You'll own nothing and be happy, eat the bugs, crazy world we live in. So he says, and this is about an hour ago, new Twitter policy is to follow the science. And, a lot of people might, first time I read that, trust the science. Oh, man. So I had to reread it. Oh, follow the science. Wait, where's he going at with this? Which necessarily includes reasoned questioning of the science. See, a science that can't be questioned is not science. A science that you need to exercise faith to accept is not science. People are not science, even though his lordship, Dr. St. Anthony Fraudstein, God bless his soul, says that when you're questioning him, you're questioning science. And we'll look at that sound clip in a second. But I generally agree with this policy. The policy is to follow the science, which necessarily includes reasoned questioning of the science. I tweeted, if it requires belief to accept it, it's not science. This guy says the science is anything that His Eminence, Lord Fauci, says it is. His Excellency is science. And Elon Musk replied to that 35 minutes ago, according to this right here. And from the time of the recording of this video, anyone who says that questioning them is questioning the science itself cannot be regarded as a scientist. That's what Elon Musk says about Anthony Fraudstein. Let's see what. Let's see. Can you get a little deception with that? Of course you can. Let's listen to him on Face the Nation. Remember this one?
They get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, so it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous.
When you criticize or question Anthony Fauci, according to Anthony Fauci, you are questioning the science. Let's hear that again. That's literally what he said.
Criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous. To me, that's more dangerous. They get up.
Does science need representatives? Really? This guy says actual science and not consensus as dictated by media experts who fearmonger for a narrative. There's a lot of good comments down here. This person says, also known as the scientific method, and basically Elon Musk is saying bingo. You got Viva Fry, saying you're a blasphemer if you say that you can question. It necessarily means that we can reasonably question science. What's wrong with you? This person says coercion is not science. Withholding data is not science. Banning and silencing those who disagree is not science. Fear-mongering is not science. If you can't question it, it's not science. It's propaganda. To which I would say, amen. Catchart says, great, tired of the fake political science. And then people bring it into another world. Bad news. This is Tom Fitton. He says, bad news for transgender extremism. You know what? Totalitarians and climate alarmists. So that's pretty interesting because all those people claim that they hide behind the science or that their springboard is science, but then when you try to question them, they start calling you names. Well, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, you're a climate alarmist, or you're a climate denier. Pretty interesting, the thought process that goes behind a lot of this stuff. The Libertarian Party says, does this mean that at least 6 feet of social distancing from all state-approved experts is the science? Justin Amash says, a good start, but the policy would be better without the qualifier reasoned. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Haven't seen this one yet. Otherwise, the issue becomes reasoned according to whom. Very good. Very good. It's just like gun control, the gun control policy or the gun safety regulations. It's like safety according to who? How are we defining these terms? Oh, that's hate speech. Hate speech according to who? Who gets to define what hate speech is and who gets to decide who gets penalized for using said hate speech? Questioning of science should be protected on a platform dedicated to free speech, regardless of whether it's broadly perceived as reasoned. That is a very good point. Hodge Twin says fire. This guy says this is the most astonishing aspect of the trust the science crowd. It was never about science. It was always just propaganda. That's a lot of people actually feel that way. And maybe the reason they feel that way is because it was expressed that way. And the people were saying, hey, if you don't believe us, if you don't trust the science, if you don't trust the way we interpret the science, then mandates need to be applied to you and you need to be punished in some way. The cops need to come to your house and they need to tell you, hey, you need to get off social media, or they need to take you away because you said something that disagreed with the mainstream narrative. Science, when isolated from challenge, inevitably becomes propaganda. That's a good thought. Good thought. Science is never absolute. Look how many times the scientists say, oh, it's this certain way. And then we find out sometimes years later, decades later, that it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that because what we said was the science back then and the things that we told people to do, well, it ended up harming a whole lot of people and we probably won't do that ever again. So that's a good point. Why shouldn't they? You shouldn't be exiled from society just because you're wrong about something. That's a good point too. Why are you so adamant about controlling the way that people think? I can feel the climate changing. We need to discuss this kind of stuff. It's not like, oh yeah, just believe us. There's some crazy stuff going on in the atmosphere. And so now we have to beg our politicians to create more policies and more taxes so that we can combat this issue, because who better to combat the issue of climate change than our lovely and beloved overlord parasitic politicians? A good motto to follow in journalism: never trust, always verify. But when the Cat Dog Cat Corporation did that on a consensus basis, you guys called for Fauci to be prosecuted simply because as more data became available, they applied the scientific method and changed recommendations. That's why you have to question the science, Chris Taylor. That's why you can't say, hey, I'm a representative of science, and if you're questioning me, you're questioning the science. You saying this sheds light on what Anthony Fauci said and the stupidity of what Anthony Fauci said. Trust the science. Trust the science is the most anti-science statement ever. Questioning science is how you do science. Very good. So back to what Elon Musk said right here. He says, new Twitter policy is to follow the science, which necessarily includes reasoned questioning of the science. Yeah, I agree with Justin Amash. He should change that to any questioning of the science, because who's going to define reasoned? Anyway, leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. I am a 100% listener supported channel. If you want to support me, there's the Buy Me a Coffee Cash App, Subscribe Star, or grab a hard-hitting conversation starting shirt from the store like Sheepvolution. Your purchase helps keeps this channel going and the lights on. I will see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.